We are literally out of time in trying to create a more sustainable future. And to do that, we need to advance a lot of solutions in parallel, get them ready to deploy and deploy them.
Welcome to the Roads to Carbon Neutral podcast. I'm Mike Scott, and in this episode, we're diving into one of the most urgent questions in climate tech. Can we reduce aviation emission, and fast, without grounding the future of global travel?
TotalEnergies, in partnership with NBC Universal Catalyst, presents the Roads to Carbon Neutral podcast.
Aviation is one of the fastest growing sources of emissions. Currently, the sector is looking to sustainable aviation fuel, also known as SAF, to help lower its carbon footprint. And while SAF has been hailed as the industry's best near-term hope, it's still barely off the runway. As of 2024, SAF accounts for less than 0.53% of global jet fuel use, according to the European Aviation Safety Agency. It's expensive, hard to scale, and dependent on feedstocks that are often limited or inconsistent. To better understand the current state of SAF, I spoke to Angelique Chenal, a biofuel program leader at TotalEnergies R&D Center in Solers, near Lyon.
Today, aircrafts can be fueled with a mix of sustainable aviation fuel, known also as SAF, and conventional fossil fuel, up to 50% of the total blend. So, sustainable aviation fuel incorporates biogenic waste.
And what's in sustainable aviation fuel today?
The organic waste coming from today from used cooking oil or animal fat.
European regulations restrict the use of food crops for SAF, so producers like TotalEnergies rely on waste-based feedstocks. But that comes with its own challenges.
With our current feedstock, the limitation is based on the feedstock availabilities because we are using only waste. So this is a limitation.
And how do you ensure sustainability throughout the supply chain?
The European regulation has strong targets regarding the CO2 reduction of biofuels. So sustainable aviation fuel has to reduce at least 50% of the CO2 emissions. We have paperwork and traceability of all the logistics to be sure that at the end of the process, the sustainable aviation will reduce the CO2 emission of all the process around 50% compared to fossil one.
While TotalEnergies is refining bio-based SAF, others are taking a different route. Jennifer Holmgren is CEO of LanzaTech, which turns waste gases and CO2 into ethanol and then into jet fuel.
There are a lot of routes emerging. What we do is we take waste, solid waste like municipal solid waste, industrial gases that are waste or byproducts of some type of industrial production, and we convert that to SAF. We need to think about using carbon-rich resources as many times as possible. We cannot throw away carbon, right? A lot of people like to talk about energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is extremely important. What we never talk about is carbon efficiency. And that's where carbon recycling, that's where the circular economy comes in. That is what we do. That's what others in the industry are trying to do. Some type of waste material, instead of throwing it away, use it again to make something else. And that's how we're going to focus the sustainable aviation fuel industry.
Hi, I'm Nafisa Lohawala, a fellow at Resources for the Future. I'm an economist by training and mostly work on the biggest barriers to decarbonizing transportation, including cars, trucks, and airplanes.
Hi, Nafisa. Thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today. Why is it important that we tackle emissions from aviation in the first place?
I think it's because of this tension. It's really crucial for global connectivity, but at the same time, it's an important contributor to climate change. Studies have estimated that aviation accounts for about 3.5% of the human induced impact on the climate. The challenge is that aviation is one of the fastest growing sectors in terms of climate impact. So the carbon emissions from this sector have more than doubled since mid 1980s, and there are projections indicating that the demand might double the 2019 levels by mid-century.
And while electric planes and hydrogen jets might be on the horizon, they're not ready for long-haul flights and may never be. That's where SAF comes in.
Depending on the feedstock and the pathway that is being used, to produce sustainable aviation fuels, you can reduce carbon emissions up to 94% based on certain studies. The charm really is because of the fact that you can use it in the existing aircraft. So you don't need any other propulsion technologies for that, which is why there's very little effort on the part of the industry compared to like other breakthrough technologies such as hydrogen, which would require a complete technological overhaul of the aircraft fleet.
But SAF isn't the only lever.
There are other things as well that can be done. I think one really promising one that people don't talk enough about is contrail mitigation through artificial intelligence. Like 2 years ago, Google, along with American Airlines, ran a pilot experiment where they would use AI forecasts to predict the altitudes at which contrails were more likely to form. And then they would inform the pilots so like they can just change the altitude just like they would do in the presence of turbulence. Their study finds that it can reduce contrails by up to 50% at a very minimal increase in fuel consumption. So I think that is also low hanging fruit when it comes to reducing climate impact, and also super important because contrails, as the studies estimate, have more than half of the climate impact from this sector.
Let's gather some final thoughts. Jennifer, what will it take to scale SAF and decarbonize aviation in the long term?
I believe in a future where all the different production methods have to have a seat at the table. Because if we don't do it that way, we may never get to the volumes we need. We are literally out of time in trying to create a more sustainable future. And to do that, we need to advance a lot of solutions in parallel, get them ready to deploy and deploy them. And it's all about deploying. That's how we're going to get there from here.
While the adoption of SAF continues to face challenges, progress is being made. Over a decade ago, the first test flight took place using a 20% SAF blend, powering just one engine of a Boeing 747. However, in 2023, the first transatlantic flight using 100% sustainable aviation fuel flew between London and New York. The hope is that in the near future, taking to the skies could be done with a lower carbon footprint. That's it for today. Thank you to Jennifer Holmgren, Nafisa Lahuwallah, and Angelique Chenard for their insights. Until next time, this has been the Roads to Carbon Neutral podcast. For more from the series, visit roadstocarbonneutral.com. And to discover more on TotalEnergies' energy transition activities, visit totalenergies.com/energy-transition.